All right. This is a story about something that happened in my life that I wanted to share. And I want to share it before my plaque psoriasis flares up on my face. So, recently I was watching David Paulides' The Sasquatch movie, and there was a lady in there who said she saw two eyes looking through a window, and she was on the second story of her home, and David measured it, and it was about 8 to 10 feet. And she says she woke up out of her sleep and looked at her window and saw those. As a child, I grew up in central Missouri, Montgomery City, and where our house was, my father had it on the very edge of town, and it was a block. So he had the house built, and then later on he purchased the property around the house. So I had woods to play in, and on the other side of these woods there were cornfields to the north, there were cornfields to the east. There is our side yard and little straggly woods, and on the side cornfields. So I grew up around cornfields, and as a child I wasn't exposed to scary movies or monsters or anything like that. Now my sister, she liked those scary movies and stuff, but I strayed away from all that. But there came a time as a young child, I was in elementary school, grade school, and those same eyes that this lady saw, and Barry Littleton mentioned in one of his videos something about glowing eyes, and I sent him a message about it. Of course, he didn't get back because he's busy, and it was just a messenger message. But anyway, I've seen these eyes before, and to hear other people talk about it, I wanted to share what happened to me. So the way our house was laid out, if you were looking from the street, we had a kitchen, living room, and then behind the kitchen living room we had the bedrooms, and in the middle of that was the bathroom in a small hallway, very small, because it's a small home. And we had a basement, so we had when you came into the side of the house from the west side, you were in the kitchen, or you could go downstairs into the basement. Once you got to the bottom of the steps, you had a bedroom to the right and a bedroom to the left. Well, over to your left, we had a window there and a door going out to the patio. My father had a patio dug out in the back of the house because he was going to develop it into a patio, but we never did. So it was just basically a hole in the backyard, and it grew with grass and stuff, and it was just our backyard, but it had a slope. And behind our house, when the builder built the house, they had bulldozed the woods, and they pushed the woods all up into this pile, and that pile stayed there behind our house. And it was kind of like the patio led to a little creek, but not really, just a low lane area. And I'm just laying this out there for y'all so y'all understand. So once again, if you're looking at my house from the front, you're looking north. To the east, there's corn. To the west of my house is just our driveway in the neighborhood. But to the north of it, there's woods. And I would go into those woods because my dad bought them for me. And before he had all those woods bulldozed, I would go off into those woods and play. And growing up in Missouri and in the Midwest, especially Missouri, that was the old West. So you had a lot of antique, the blue bottles, the green medicine bottles, all of those little things you see in the Western movies. I was finding stuff like that. I would dig into the soil and you never know what you were going to find. So I would scavenge and find stuff. But I would spend hours out there in those woods. But came a time when I was seeing these eyes. I'm not sure what led them to me or if I did something, but I was just thinking this morning that my sister, one day I had to use the restroom and she was in the bathroom and she wouldn't come out and I pooped on myself. And my father was like, hey, when he needs to go to the bathroom, let him in there, you know. But as a child, I was like, I ain't gonna let that happen again. So I kept me some toilet paper outside the bathroom. So wherever that needed to happen, I would go out to the woods or outside and find a spot and poop. And after watching the Sasquatch and all the stuff that I know now, it's like, was I leaving my scent out in those woods? Because sometimes I would be out in the woods and I ain't gonna track all the way back to the house. I'm just gonna poop in the woods. And as a little kid, you ain't thinking about stuff like that. But anyway, at nighttime, these eyes would appear through the wall. The wall would be a solid wall. Now, the only window in my room was on the east side of it. The only light that came to that window was the sun when it came up in the morning. There was no other light at all on the east side of our house. And there's no lights to the north side of our house because it's woods. The only light was the corner street light that my father had put up shortly after our house was built. The nearest street light was down the block, and that would be going south from our house. So my father had a street light put up for me. He said he put, my dad, I had a street light put up for you where you could play out, This is back when you had to be home when the street light came on. You needed to be in the yard. So I would play out in the woods and stuff, and that light was the only light, and it only hit the front of the house, the kitchen, the west side of the house, because when you drove up to our house, you would come up, but the street would continue and would just go into a pasture little area, and then you could turn into our driveway, and our driveway faced the west side of the house, so that's where we would park our cars. So that's the only spot that would be lit up by the street light. But I'd be laying in bed and I'd see these eyes like the glow in the dark. Back in the 80s, you had the little Captain Crunch toys that would glow, and you would watch it fade out. At nighttime you'd be anxious to see it glow, so you noticed in the dark it would be bright and then it would just fade out real slowly to where it wasn't glowing anymore. That's how these eyes looked coming through the wall. Now, seeing the ladies or David Paulides' representation of the eyes on his movie, and from what I saw as a kid, it's like I didn't know what aliens, the gray aliens, looked like. I had no idea. So what I saw as far as the eyes were shaped like theirs, but not big like that. But they were more like the Sasquatch the eyes you saw in the movie. And it was just peeking in, like you're just kind of like when you're swimming and you're either in the water and you poke your face up above the water to just breaking the surface and you feel the water break around your face. That's how those eyes would look on the wall. It was like it was just peeking in just enough where the eyes would be in the wall, but not on it, but in it. And they would not move around, and then they would just sit there and they would just glow. And the first time, I can't say the first time, but I got curious. It's like, all right, I'm seeing this on the wall, and at first I didn't know what it was. I just saw it was two dots. I didn't put it together later that they were eyes, but I, I got up. I looked out the east side of my bedroom. There's no light, and I'm looking at the wall. I'm like, okay. So I actually get up and I go and I touch the wall solid, and the eyes aren't there. The closer I get to the wall, the eyes go away. So I'm touching it, but it's a solid wall as you would expect. So I get back in the bed, and me and my father shared a bedroom. My mom had her own bedroom. My father had his bedroom. When I was a baby, I would get up out the crib at night and go in and into the bed because I didn't want to sleep in the crib. I wanted to sleep with mom and pop. So finally, I had a handicapped brother, and my mom and him kept a room, and I just slept with my father. But we shared a bed, and I would get in the bed and I would snuggle up close to my dad, and I'd be looking at that wall, and those eyes would come through. And finally, I just stopped looking at it. I figured if I don't look at it, it ain't there. So, but that would happen. That happened for a while. I'm not sure what the time frame was that it did happen, but during my elementary school days, or even maybe pre-elementary, I'm not sure. But when I was a kid, a little, you know, single digits, that would happen to me, and I saw that stuff, and I didn't know what it was. And then I was watching Barry, and he was talking about the eyes and the life forms and stuff. And I said, I seen those eyes. And then I'm watching David Paulides' movie about the Sasquatch and the lake. I seen those eyes. And then as a kid, I did see the Amityville Horror. When they go upstairs in the room, I don't know where it is, but those eyes outside the window. It didn't look like those. These look more glowing, like the Captain Crunch glow toy type of glow, but the shape of what that lady saw, and a mix between that and the alien gray eye. But that's what I would see, and I just stopped looking at the wall and forgot about it. However, when my father passed away, I was 12 years old, and I never did put my bed against that wall. I had a 4x8 plywood train set I put against that wall in my computer desk that I had for my Apple computer back in the day, Apple IIc. But yeah, my bed was opposite of that wall. But yeah, I never saw those. As I got older, it just started happening. And then also, there's another thing I want to note. I guess you call them moles, like when you got a little black dot on your skin. But as a child, I had a mole on one of my toes. It wasn't my big toe, it was the toe right next to the big toe, or the toe next to that one. But I had a dot right in the middle of that toe. Very faint black dot. And out in the country, you don't wear shoes. You barefoot, you're walking on gravel, through the grass, wherever. But I would play with my next door neighbor's daughters, and they had some type of ColecoVision or some type of game system, Commodore, whatever. But I would go over there and play video games sometimes. And we were sitting on the bed, and we ain't got no shoes on, and I just happened to glance down at her feet. She had a dot on one of her toes, just like I had on my toe. And I didn't say anything about it. I just noticed it as a kid, and I didn't say nothing. But I found that odd all these years. And a whole bunch of other stuff has happened to me at 901 Elm Street. If you live there now, hey. But I witnessed some strange stuff around that area. My first doppelganger I saw That'll be another story. I've typed these stories out and sent them to Josh Turner and other people, but my experiences aren't stories. They're just occurrences, so there's no real story to tell. I have a lot of those occurrences throughout my entire life, and the more I see, because I've experienced stuff my entire life, and it seems that people that experience it with me, like my sister, she's experienced stuff with me, but when I mention it to her, she don't remember, she don't recall it. Or I mention stuff to people, and they'll just say, "Oh yeah, but they're not looking at it like I'm looking at it. I'm looking deeper into it. But I don't talk to a lot of people about the stuff that I never have, because I'm a loner for one, so I'm always by myself. And the friends that did have, they've all died. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video and tell my story, because that David Paulides Sasquatch movie, I've I've I bought that on Amazon for like $14, and it's been on replay. Well, I've been restarting it, but there's so much information in that movie. David Paulides, thank you for everything you've done, everything you do, all your sacrifices. Thank you to all the paranormal researchers. Josh Turner, thank you. Blondes and Blues, everybody out there, the ones I haven't mentioned, thank you all, because there's stuff going on, but nobody wants to talk about it. And I find it funny, like when you turn on the news, I don't watch the news anymore. Not after Trump just outed everything. But I already knew it was fake, but for him to confirm it, it's like, yeah, okay. But yeah, they don't talk about anything that's important to us as a survival, as humans. They don't talk about anything that's important. It's killing, or the skating rinks done closed down in town and they're not gonna have it, or we're not gonna have the taste of Addison no more after 30 years. They talk about stuff that, like, yeah, so what? What about this? What about that? And it's like, when I was brought up, my mom, she was Jehovah's Witness. When I was born, she was a witness, practicing witness. I am not a Jehovah's Witness. I cannot walk that fine line being a witness. I can't do it. But that aside, is that it's a Christian religion, and my mom was Baptist growing up. She's from Mississippi, so she had that Baptist in her. But my mom was a good person, good-hearted person. But she converted to being a Jehovah's Witness. And I would ask her things as a child, but it was always, "It's a demon, it's a demon." That's the only response I would ever get. And then I would ask the people at the Kingdom Hall stuff, "Demon." Never any explanation, just demon. And then, not only am I asking them questions, but as a child, I'm experiencing this stuff. And I never did. I told my mother a story that happened to me shortly before she passed away. But once again, demon. But as I'm sitting there listening to Paranormal Roundtable and Josh and all the people calling in and sharing their experiences, I'm like, no, there's more to it than just demons. Like, I believe it's some type of energy, evil, whatever you want to call it, and it manifests in whatever it wants to manifest in. It does whatever it wants to do, because it's not physical like we are, and it can take whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to share this because, like I said, I've made another video. It's not very positive, but I'm getting to run around with my medication, and I know that I have a good chance of flaring up again. And that will be where my skin makes extra skin on top of skin on top of skin, and it looks like scabs, but it's not scabs, it's my actual skin. And you can't pick at it because it's not a scab, it's your skin, so when you pick it, you're just digging into your flesh. So that's why I wanted to make this video, because I know any day I feel my skin, the way my skin feels right now. If you ever boiled water, and right when the water's becoming to boil, it starts to move. It's not boiling, but the water's moving. It's heating up. You can see the top of the water. It's not bubbling, but it's moving. That's how my skin feels right now. And when it gets to that point, it's gonna boil. So if you're, I've when I was a child, there's this girl. Her name was Kathy, and this was like in kindergarten, first grade. But she was a white girl, but she had real white skin, like porcelain. And she was a beautiful child, and she had these pink, just these red blotches all over her. And she would never smile, she would never talk. Even when I tried to talk to her and say hi, I was always friendly, but she never wanted to talk. Then I met a guy in college. I didn't know what was wrong with him either. He had skin, flaky, red, black eye. Skin, raky, red patches. Looks like he just had dandruff all over. And I got that same thing. I always wondered what was wrong with them. But they were never happy. Hardly ever smiled. And that guy, I got him a job at Sears when I worked at Sears. And I vouched for this guy because I thought he was a great guy. And he wouldn't come into work. And my boss was like, what's going on with so-and-so? I'm like, I don't know, I'll call him. Hey man, you coming into work? You would just mumble. And like, it was like he was determined if he was going to come in or not. And after it happened a couple of times, I didn't know what was going on. And he would come in and he'd be upset and angry, but I didn't realize that plaque psoriasis was making him act like that. I didn't realize that little girl in grade school, that plaque psoriasis was making her act that way. And back then, they didn't have any medication for it. And for me to experience it, I'm so sorry. But yeah, that plaque psoriasis, it's a bad boy. But yeah, I'm going to make some more videos about the other things that have happened to me before whatever happens to me happens. But if you watch the video, thanks for watching. I'm just an ordinary American doing the ordinary American thing. And thankful for every day. I thank God every day.